Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Dodos at Prediction Software. Thank you so much for joining us today to learn more about everything that matters in advanced analytics. Today, we're honored to have two well-known and respected analysts from Hurwitz and Associates, Marcia Kaufman and Dan Kirsch, along with Prediction's Head of Product Management, Steve Stover. Marcia and Dan will be sharing technology and business trends in advanced analytics that were featured in Hurwitz and Associates' Victory Index on Advanced Analytics. And Steve will explore some predictive use cases, how to expedite the time to insights, where and when predictions are the most impactful, whether on the device, on the gateway, or in the cloud, and how to decide which to use in different environments. There's a lot of great content to share today, and your presenters will do their best to keep their presentations to around 45 minutes to allow plenty of time for your questions within the hour you've set aside for us today. So please feel free to enter your questions in either the question or the chat pane, and then go to Webinar Control Panel at any time during the session. So with that, let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to hand the stage over to Marcia and Dan. Marcia, Dan?
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We're really excited to be with all of you today. And in this presentation, we are going to focus on how companies are leveraging new sources of data, such as data from sensors and devices, or the Internet of Things, to anticipate change and improve outcomes. Dan and I will be presenting together today. And we are with Hurwitz and Associates, a Boston-based consulting and market research analyst firm. Our research focuses on cloud computing, big data and analytics, cognitive computing, security and governance. We've done a lot of research in these areas and published both books and many studies. Just recently, I co-authored a book on cognitive computing and big data analytics. Just quickly on our agenda for today, we'll just kick it off with a few comments on being prepared for change. And as Jennifer mentioned, we'll be reviewing some of the results from our Victory Index on Advanced Analytics. We'll look at some of the top findings and top trends in advanced analytics. Predixion was one of the vendors we featured in this report, and we'll just discuss a little bit of the results specific to Predixion and look at customer use case. So, why Uber, why taxi? Well, let me ask you, what is your organization doing now to prepare for unanticipated change? I really love this particular combination of images because the taxi industry is certainly one that I certainly didn't think it was so ripe for change. We just sort of expect it's kind of been the same for quite a long time until something changed. And what is it that changed? Well, we all carry our mobile devices around, and because of that and because of the data about where we are and what we're looking for and what our needs are flowing through that device, there's new business models that become very, that take charge. And in this case, perhaps out of nowhere, but if it can happen to the taxi industry, and Uber is so successful, it can and is happening in so many different industries. So for example, where are you finding opportunities from sensor and device data? If you're in manufacturing, are you able to combine sensor data with internal and maybe some third-party data to predict machine failures, and not only just predict when a machine may be failing, but to anticipate and both save costs and correct problems before they occur, as well as improve performance. Perhaps in the retail industry, are you making use of point of sale data in new ways, looking for patterns between point of sale data, between enterprise data sources and relevant demographic data to, again, understand, get a deeper insight into your customer needs and to make positive changes in your results. In other industries, such as in transportation or shipping, are you able to improve logistics by analyzing sensor data and on the shipping equipment, and then in combination with, again, this social media data, with weather data, traffic data? This is where the future is, and there's a lot of success happening, and this is what we've heard from the customers that we talk to. So just a quick some highlights on what we call our Victory Index on Advanced Analytics. We looked at the offerings of 10 vendors in the field of advanced analytics. In addition to that, we surveyed over 450 end users to understand the business and technical value they were getting from their advanced analytics solution. And we talked in depth with many customers to understand best practices and really get insight into their use cases. From that, we really were able to glean certain key market trends, and we also rated the analytics vendors on how they were meeting the needs of their customers, as well as innovating on their technology. Let's just take a step back for a minute to make sure we're all really on the same page regarding how we define advanced analytics. Basically, it's a statistical or data mining solution, and there's a variety of algorithms and techniques that are used both on structured and, most importantly now, more unstructured data, used to help to predict outcomes, to develop models that provide insight. Some of the most commonly used techniques are decision trees, linear regression, also time series models, cluster analysis, logistic regression, and neural networks. And I'd like to add, though, that this, while there's a lot of deep technology and experience required to use some of these techniques, there is a new generation out there of analytic solutions that hide a lot of the complexity, adding some automation to both streamline the analytics process and add complexity so that this advanced analytics is becoming much more prevalent and much more widely used. As I mentioned, we talked to quite a few end users, and some really exciting results. By and large, these users are finding and analyzing patterns in sources of data that they maybe never even really analyzed before. Big data sources such as the machine sensor data, social media data. They're able to build predictive models from this data and find and develop insights that allow them to really understand customers better, solve problems in new ways. We did ask all the end users how they were feeling about the software that they are working with, and quite frankly, many of the customers we talked to use more than one analytics solution, and by and large, they're really pretty happy with what they're using. That doesn't mean it's smooth sailing for everybody. In fact, there's a real range of capabilities out there from the end users that we talk to. While there are some incredible successes, there's a lot of companies that are still getting started with analytics and predictive analytics and, of course, advanced analytics. And some of the challenges they face are really having a lack of analytical skills in their organization. They mentioned the need to make it easier to integrate with other software. And because there's large volumes of data, there's a need for more or increased in-database support. But what are some, when these companies are looking for patterns and building models, what are they doing? They're really able to, in say government or in insurance, reduce fraud. It's really a big use case. We've mentioned already predictive maintenance, and we'll go into that in more detail. In gas and energy industry and manufacturing and transportation, models help. We find that a lot of the end users using data and building predictive models to improve the way they anticipate problems with their machines and take charge and fix problems before they occur. In marketing, telecommunications companies, retail, entertainment organizations, they're able to reduce customer churn and figure out sort of what we call next best action by building models that allow them a greater insight into customer demands and customer requirements. So we pulled a lot of information together, some of the key trends in the advanced analytics market today. Number one is analytics platforms are becoming much more accessible to business users. This is really critical because there's a great need and a great demand for understanding and getting deeper value from your data, and not every organization or every department within an organization has access to a PhD statistician or a data scientist. And along with that, visualizations are being offered by the analytics vendors, and there's a lot of improvement in that area. It's in a really important way to both explore and interpret analytics results. And we see when there is a data scientist, they find it easier to use a visualization to help share information amongst teams and with business users. Data sources that enterprises are using or need to analyze are really becoming much larger and more diverse. And so because of this, there's a need for greater computational power. And as I mentioned previously, this being able to use in-database capabilities to get closer to the data and have the power you need to get answers really fast. There's also an increasing demand for more prepackaged analytics solutions or analytics embedded in a broader solution to give companies a head start and take some of the complexity out of building the models. One additional trend that's really very hot right now is the need to analyze sensor and machine data. As we've mentioned, we'll look further into that as we move through the presentation. And now I'd really like to pass the presentation over to my colleague, Dan Kirsch.
Thank you, Marcia. As I'm sure many of you have heard of the term Internet of Things, or IoT. The Internet, the way we define IoT, is a network of physical objects that are instrumented with sensors or software that enable them to connect with each other. The key is that when these devices are connected, they're able to achieve a greater value than when they stand alone. So examples of IoT devices include components of a vehicle or medical monitoring devices. While IoT has many business opportunities, there's a variety of challenges. For example, the data coming off of these sensors and software is complex and there's no standards. So different sensors on the same device might send data to a central hub in different formats. In addition, the sheer volume of data is growing at an exponential rate. More and more devices are being instrumented, and managing and analyzing this data is a huge challenge. Finally, the data is coming off at just a tremendous speed. Being able to analyze and predict events in near real time is a challenge for many organizations. So as Marcia mentioned, these sensors are able to detect a variety of physical events. So that could be temperature, GPS, longitude and latitude, elevation, vibrations, etc. Organizations are then taking this data and building predictive models. And what they're trying to do is detect hidden patterns that they wouldn't be able to normally detect with traditional analytics packages or advanced use of Excel. And Marcia mentioned a number of common IoT use cases, and we're seeing this across industries and within industries across horizontals. So we're seeing IoT use cases developing in predictive maintenance, which we'll discuss later, strongly in healthcare to make customized healthcare recommendations for patients, streamlining logistics, creating a more responsive IT security and more responsive fraud detection. And also, we're seeing public utilities use predictive analytics to anticipate needs and then also pre-purchase capacity so that they can reduce their costs. So in our study, Predixion ranked as a challenger. In particular, in the area of market strength, we've seen the company build upon its success in healthcare to support other industries and use cases. For example, customers are using Predixion to detect fraud, for preventative maintenance, and for marketing optimization, and for the 360 view of customers. Then when we talked to customers, we heard a few common themes come out, and this is what they really liked about Predixion and why they chose the platform. So in particular, it was the time to value. So they were able to get a value quite quickly after their implementation. They also had a short learning curve. Many of the customers who were familiar with Excel and other Microsoft tools found Predixion just to be an easy extension of that. And then also customers, more advanced customers, like the integration with R that Predixion offers. So in this slide, we look at a customer who's using Predixion for predictive maintenance. This customer is a large oil and gas producer with oil rigs spread across the globe. When an oil rig goes down for unanticipated maintenance, the company is unable to generate revenue. In addition, they're spending a tremendous amount of money on preventative maintenance, which takes oil rigs out of production. The company wanted a way to anticipate equipment failures and also a way to stop doing maintenance that wasn't required. The oil rig is instrumented with a variety of sensors that monitor things like pressure, temperature, and vibrations. So what the company did after engaging with Predixion is they created a scoring model based on the sensor data that creates thousands of scoring predictions in near real time. To help maintenance and operations teams understand the analytics, they then made an application that was geared towards those maintenance crews. And then a real tangible benefit of their IoT implementation was that the company was able to identify the failure of an oil rig 2 weeks before it was set to occur. Maintenance crews were able to take corrective action to prevent the unscheduled downtime. And here are just two quotes one is from a Predixion partner who's using Predixion, and then the other is from a customer. So this first quote is actually from the managing director of Accenture Life Sciences. And he says, Predixion has been able to differentiate itself by making an accessible tool with a fast learning curve and intuitive data visualization approach. And when talking to Accenture, they're developing use cases with Predixion in a variety of healthcare spaces, including patient readmissions, pharmaceutical research and development, demand planning, and patient health management. And the reason Accenture chose Predixion, some of the key benefits include the accessibility of the analytics to frontline employees. So nurses and doctors can understand the analytics, easy to understand visualizations, and also the ability for teams within Accenture and within their clients to collaborate. And then the second quote is from a healthcare customer, and they say, the Predixion relationship is much more like a partnership than a traditional vendor relationship. And they really appreciated just the support they were getting from Predixion. When they were building out their use case, they felt that Predixion was kind of part of their team and helping them to implement the strategy. So now I'd like to introduce Steve Stover from the Predixion team. Steve?
Thank you, Dan. Hello, everyone. So again, my name is Steve Stover. I lead product management here at Predixion. By way of just a short introduction, I've been living in the big data and analytics and cloud spaces for quite some time. Have experience working at companies like Teradata, Red Hat, and Dell, launching and growing successful products within this particular space. Now, some more about Predixion in addition to what Marcia and Dan shared. We were founded back in 2009. Our corporate headquarters are in California. One of our co-founders and our current CTO is a former employee of Microsoft, so we've built up a really great center of excellence in engineering in our Redmond, Washington office. We are a venture-funded company, and we have some great strategic investors like Accenture, GE, and EMC, and most recently announced Software AG. We do, in addition to our products, we have expert services with team members that are very skilled and educated in data science and statistics. What you see on the bottom here is just a sample representation of our partners and customers, but as you'll see with our partners, not only are some of our partners investors, but they're very strategic to us in go-to-market and technology relationships like Accenture, long-standing relationships with great companies like Microsoft. Some of our customers are shown here as well, and they show just the diversity and reach of the Predixion customer base across multiple verticals, from technology companies like Cisco to Carolina Healthcare System, which Dan was just talking about in the healthcare space, as well as government organizations like the U.S. Air Force. In addition to the great exposure and recognition that the Hurwitz team is giving us with our positioning as a challenger in the advanced analytics market, we've been getting a lot of interest lately from industry analysts like Gartner, and we just debuted on the Magic Quadrant for Advanced Analytics, having the most favorable positioning of any new entrant onto the Magic Quadrant. Similarly with Forrester, a great representation there. We've been included in the Big Data 50 as one of the hottest big data startups of 2014. We have a great strength in healthcare, so it's probably not surprising the recognition we have there as well. So Dan did a great job of talking about what the IoT is and the dynamics of how things come to be connected and their greater value. And one of the effects and opportunities for a company like Predixion is really dealing with all the data that is being generated by the IoT. There are a lot of dynamics at play here, but they're all providing a bit of a cumulative effect where IoT really came out of the machine-to-machine market. But over the last 10 years, there have been significant decreases in the cost of processing and the cost of bandwidth, which is leading to these significant projections of connected devices, up to upwards of 50 billion connected devices by the year 2020. Within that same time frame, we're going to go from 44 exabytes generated from devices within the IoT today to 4,400 exabytes. And when I talk with our customers, just to make it a little bit more tangible for those who aren't familiar with dealing with data at this scale, 4,400 exabytes is equivalent to 4,400 billion terabytes. So just a ton of data that's being generated by the IoT. Now, a lot of the talk in the industry is about getting connected and collecting data, but we think the true value of the IoT will be realized when you can make significant business changes from the insight provided by analytics on all of the IoT data being generated. When we speak with our customers, several common things come across regardless of industry. This is in the form of understanding and forecasting utilization, consumption and demand to better match required capacity with fluctuations. This can help you do things like optimize your supply chain to only stock and ship parts based on when it is actually needed. And if you have a large set of geographically distributed assets in the field, being able to cluster maintenance and repairs when you actually need them provides a big cost savings. Clustering service helps you save time and money by sending field resources once to service multiple assets versus going out multiple times and servicing those assets individually. In many ways, what I just talked about can better help to provide enhanced customer experiences, but also leveraging things like beacon technology and even mobile applications in retail are also an opportunity. More opportunities are emerging from the roots of digitizing healthcare and that industry embracing the IoT. we're pretty excited about this trend given our history and position there. But we're going to get this opportunity by leveraging remote monitoring devices and predictive analytics coupled to that to optimize treatment plans based on improving or worsening patient condition. That way, healthcare providers can scale back treatment and monitoring relative to the probability of improving conditions or intervene with increased telemonitoring, as an example, or scheduling inpatient visits based on the risk of a worsening condition. This all leads to reducing the cost and improving the quality of care. Another big element of cost savings in a more general sense is preserving the value or extending the remaining useful life of large expensive assets within the IoT by avoiding downtime. We can do this by predicting component and system level failures before they occur or turn into cascading failures. The way to achieve this goal is by providing automated actions in real time on the device, really on the edge. You get to save money by squeaking out as much as you can from the asset and by performing maintenance when you really need it or preventing compounding damage to your assets before those failures actually occur. This is in comparison to doing these things in a reactionary mode or based on metrics such as mileage or hourly operation, which are sometimes arbitrary without consideration of the actual operating conditions or measured integrity of the components or the systems themselves. Last but not least, a lot of our customers are just beginning to tap the data that's being generated by the IoT, and they're turning to us to help them identify new product or business opportunities by analyzing all this great data. Now, given the opportunities for predictive analytics in the IoT, Predixion is focused on several industry and use cases. Specifically within the IoT, again, given the rise of M2M out of manufacturing, we're spending a lot of time focusing on industrial verticals like manufacturing, energy and utilities, along with transportation. We do have a more horizontally focused set of use cases around fleet management. Transportation is a very specific industry, but there are service organizations who operate large fleets to support their business. Their benefits and how they take a look at their businesses differ, but our ability to apply predictive analytics within that space serves both horizontal and vertical market use cases. Given our healthcare and life sciences background, in addition to the things we provide today around readmissions and length of stay and population health, we're really excited about the opportunities emerging in remote patient monitoring. There are millions of devices that are connected to people in remote monitoring settings. Being able to apply predictive analytics, as I talked about before, to intervene and tailor treatment plans based on worsening or improving chronic conditions is actually really important to us. Last but not least, in the retail marketing areas, we do have solutions focused on segmentation and offer recommendation, as well as predictive lead scoring to help customers identify opportunities that are most likely to convert from the initial lead. Now, all of these opportunities come with a certain set of challenges. Dan talked about some of these earlier about the data dynamics within the IoT, and what our customers tell us is a lot of the traditional tools that are out there really can't deal with the volume or velocity, and they were really constructed to operate in a cloud or data center environment. But much of the intelligence that you need to derive are around devices or machines that are in remote areas that have very limited bandwidth and only have periodic connectivity and often operate in a disconnected mode. This has led to a set of architectures within the IoT where data is often aggregated or filtered at the edge, and then ultimately forward to the cloud, but that can create data blind spots where you could have produced some intelligence from that data, or even time lags depending on the amount of time it takes to get to those connected devices all the way up into the cloud. And the reality is critical use cases really require real-time actions performed on the edge based on analyzing all of that data. Assuming all these challenges can be met, we need to be able to empower a diverse set of stakeholders to take action within a time frame relevant to what really needs to be accomplished. What you see here is a framework for these types of decisions that need to be made within the IoT. Operational decisions and actions are important to be made in very small time frames, often automatically, as in the case of performing an orderly shutdown to avoid cascading failures. An example of an action to be taken within minutes to hours at the staff level is scheduling of an inpatient visit for someone who is showing increased risk of a worsening chronic condition. Examples of tactical decisions most often made at a managerial level include things like implementing an improvement program for a driver that is showing a high risk of being involved in an accident, or scheduling vehicle maintenance a week out because the probability of failure of the braking system is significantly increasing over the next several weeks. Now, strategic decisions require a lot of time and a lot of data to support and are often made at the executive level. A decision may be made to purchase manufacturing equipment to expand capacity, taking into consideration forecasting of macroeconomic data at a geographic level, and that can be combined with asset utilization data at the plant level. This helps to fine-tune the purchasing by making more informed decisions armed with predictive analytics across multiple related data sources. So that brings us to what we do and what we offer to take advantage of all these opportunities and to help our customers deal with some of those challenges. What Predixion is really focused on is providing real-time predictive analytics at the decision point to improve outcomes. We do this by providing a set of turnkey solutions, as Marcia and Dan talked about, packaged really for industry-specific use cases or more horizontally focused use cases. But we do have a solution and platform called Prediction Insight, and that allows our customers to ingest data from multiple sources, bring it into our platform to perform analysis. Along with some of the key trends that Marcia identified, we have the ability to implement our own native algorithms for predictive analytics, ingest scripts from R, and ingest models from other varying locations and sources, like those represented in the PMML. But it ultimately leads to the production of a piece of technology called an MLSM package, which I'll talk more in detail in a little bit more in the presentation. But it's our unique ability to apply this predictive technology and perform predictions basically anywhere within the IoT architecture. And all those predictions are great, but unless you put those insights into the hands of frontline employees who can actually take action, we're really not delivering on the value proposition of all this data and those scenarios that I talked about within the IoT. So there's another component of our solution called the Solution Accelerator, which provides a very consumable interface for taking a look at some of the predictive analytics, the key influencers, and associating actions to take so that you can really make an impact based on those predictive insights. As I talked about before, we do offer data science services. We're really focused on software as the overall solution, but as many of you know, there are a lot more problems than data scientists walking the earth to solve them. So it's not unusual for our customers to engage with us to get some additional help around data science services, but that's really focused on getting the most out of their data to leverage the platform to solve the problems that they want to solve. Now, at the heart of what we do and how we're different, we really are focused on providing predictive analytics where you need it and when you need it. We really are the only predictive analytics solution that can run on the device, on the gateway, or in the cloud. As we've talked about, some of the very critical elements of being able to run in disconnected scenarios really at the edge or on the device, if you have enough horsepower, is really to be able to take action in real time and avoid some of those data lags and time spots. But we also have a flexible architecture if you have a large sensor-based deployment within your IoT architecture to embed our predictive analytics on a gateway. It's feasible. It's more ideal when embedding on the device is less feasible because sensors have sometimes very low compute power, but it still helps you to avoid these time lags and these data blind spots. And then there are a lot of competitors and offers out in the market that actually can perform analytics in the cloud. And that's really important to get to some of those more strategic actions that I talked about previously in the slide before. But we really are the only vendor who can run on device, on the gateway, and in the cloud. One of our partners shared with us a common customer scenario where running on the edge became very, very real, instead of in the abstract. It was within a smart mining use case where there is a large earth-moving vehicle who has a very powerful head unit, very expensive asset. The challenge is within an open strip mining deployment of these vehicles, they're all lined up one by one behind each other, And if the front of the line breaks down, then everything else behind it stops. And that's not where the whole business is impacted. The bucket filler that is actually, putting things into those trucks, it has to stop. It can actually impact the drilling that's going on. And the challenge that they ran into is that it took 2 weeks for the data from the truck to go to the gateway into their cloud application because of the disparate nature of the IoT architecture that can happen in some cases. And they weren't able to take a look at that failure until 2 weeks after it happened. So that's an example of where this kind of deployment and being able to deploy in a very flexible way helps you solve some very real-world problems. Now, at the heart of what we do is our patent-pending technology called the machine learning semantic model. And it provides a lot of value in the model creation and the deployment process. We've talked today with Marcia and Dan about how it's really important to have a very usable and intuitive tool set to try to empower more and more users to harness the capabilities of predictive analytics. So our Prediction Insight platform brings in the data, you can shape it, you can do a lot of collaboration and visualization and measuring against multiple models. The output of that process is really this thing called an MLSM package, which runs in our very small footprint runtime, which can run in an OSGI container on a device as small as a Raspberry Pi, or directly on Java or .NET. But that really produces results that allows us to get to that last mile of analytics in putting the power of analytics in the hands of people who can actually do something with them. From a visualization perspective and what end users get to see, again, a value proposition of our platform is being able to surface that value in multiple ways. The first two examples on the top here are visualizations that were produced from our solution accelerator technology. In the upper right and the lower left, they were built into the Salesforce Wave platform as well as the Salesforce Cloud directly into the user interface. In the lower center, our predictive analytics were built on top of Accenture's platform for fleet management. And in the lower right, this is an example of the application a clinician actually uses in the readmission application on the hospital floor. I'm going to follow up with a couple of very specific examples of some of the projects that we've actually implemented for a number of our customers. So the first example I'd like to share is on predictive maintenance and fleet management. This is an example we built joint with Accenture to provide predictive analytics on top of their platform. What we were challenged with was predicting the need for vehicle maintenance based on predicting failure or performance degradation. As part of the solution, we trained our predictive models with sensor data from the vehicle, including things like engine temperature, tire pressure, brake linings, etc., to produce that MLSM package. That MLSM package was deployed within a CEP engine that executed a large number of predictions on risk of failure in near real time, also 1 month and 2 months out. Given that insight that we were able to provide, our customers can take vehicles out of service if a failure is imminent to avoid things like non-delivery charges or downstream delays due to unexpected breakdowns. Then fleet managers can also more optimally schedule maintenance that is actually needed given the predictive insights. This helps them to better manage the fleet capacity by keeping their vehicles in service. The next example I'd like to share is showing predictive maintenance for oil wells. We implemented this project for a large oil and gas company that wanted to better manage their field operations. So this is providing a little bit more detail on the customer example that Dan shared as well. They wanted us to show that we could predict component or system level failures and suboptimal operations. What we were able to do was to produce models that predicted failures within 30 seconds so that we could help them perform an orderly shutdown to avoid cascading failures. And we also could predict failures within 1 to 2 weeks out to help them better optimize their field service operations for maintenance, like we discussed earlier, so they could send one person out to a geographic location to service multiple wells versus sending an individual technician out in a reactionary mode when things happen, and that led to higher expense. This example showcases our ability to run on a device directly on the oil well in this particular case. We were dealing with about 25,000 sensor readings per second, producing like 2,400 to 2,500 predictions per second based on those sensor readings around temperature, vibration, and pressure. So to close out this portion, I'd just like to summarize why prediction software is really suited to help you deal with a number of advanced analytic use cases, and those particularly within the IoT. We have a very flexible platform that's easy to use, so you can rapidly create value from all of that IoT data. We're the only predictive analytics that can run on the device, on the gateway, or in the cloud. And if you need it, of course, we do have those expert data scientists to help you gain insight from all of the data to help you solve your business problems. And we do have a proven ecosystem of technology and delivery partners. So with that said, that's the end of the prepared portion of the presentation. And we've now left some time for Q&A.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, Marcia, and Dan. We've covered a lot of ground here. For those of you on the line, please, we've had a number of questions that came in during the session, and we have time to take some of those now. If you have a question that you haven't entered yet, please use that question pane. And I'll now start posing some of the questions that we do have and allow you time to enter some more of them. First question here is, we do not have a data scientist in our company. What makes an analytic solution easier to use for business users? I can throw that out to the team and see who wants to take the first stab at that. I imagine we might have a couple of different responses, both from the Hurwitz side and the Predixion side. So we have volunteers to take the first stab at that.
Sure. Well, this is Marcia. Why don't I get started, and then maybe Steve would like to chime in.
Sure.
I guess my number one response to that is I would not let lack of resources hold you back, because if we've heard anything, one thing that we've heard over and over from customers who are using advanced analytics, it's really becoming sort of a secret sauce, and they're able to, as we went through all of these case examples, it's very, very powerful. So that I would first start, and by learning, if you don't have a data scientist, you want to build up an analytics program, I would start by getting some good information from some of the analytics vendors out there, like Predixion, who would be very happy to give you some insight into best practices. You, of course, know what your business problem is, and you know what your data sources are, but so get some help. So some of the things that vendors are providing that do make it easier for business users are ways it's all around model automation. So hiding some of the complexity in the analytics process, using wizards to help you get started. And I think we've all talked a little bit about visualization tools, and that's really, really very key to being able to look and get an understanding of what the results are without having to key in specifically on the statistical results. Again, and collaboration tools are something that are really powerful in helping a team to work together. Steve, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure, just a little. Thanks, Marcia. So to continue on some of those thoughts, just a couple of things. Marcia made a really good point. You don't really have to wait to start. You don't have to have data scientists. Sometimes business analysts can get intimidated by the concept that they feel like they might need to, say, learn R. That may or may not really be the case. So if you work with a vendor who has a flexible platform that lets them get started in a very easy way, of course, I'm going to talk about Predixion, but a familiar set of tools, a cloud-based service can really remove some of those barriers around enabling a business analyst to work with a very flexible platform without having to train themselves as a data scientist by leveraging some of those predictive algorithms that are already in place, and avoid having to invest in learning something like R. So the key things are, again, you don't have to wait to get started. You don't have to necessarily model yourself after a data scientist to leverage a platform and a solution offering like Predixion that provides a very easy to use interface and a cloud-based service that helps you get started quickly.
Okay, great, thanks. There's been a number of questions that have come in regarding the presentations. You know, can I get a copy of the presentations? Will there be a replay available? I can take that. We have recorded this session, so a replay will be available, including a PDF of the presentation. So for those of you that attended, we'll send out a link so you can have access to the replay and the slides. So you will get that in the next probably 48 hours. So rest assured you'll have access to that. Other questions that have come in, here's one. It's interesting. How can I leverage this in the developing countries in Africa?
How can I leverage this? This is Marcia. Well, Steve, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So depending on the use case, and I'm assuming the question is directed to the software and platform.
Technology.
Yeah, so while we do offer a cloud-based service, we also do offer a version that is on premises. So it's really easy to get started. You know, Dan and Marcia talked about some of the time to value in terms of some of the project implementation timelines. So it is really easy to get started. We can make this software available for you to, for the server perspective, to deploy on premises if that's the scenario that makes the most sense based on where you are geographically.
Okay. This question, I believe, is more geared towards Dan and Marcia. As it relates to survey results. Do you have survey results on the use of R in predictive analytics?
Oh, yes, and that's interesting because Steve was just talking about R in relationship to the Prediction's offering. R is really becoming pervasive in advanced analytics. So again, we've talked a lot about business users. And R is really something that is typically in the realm of a more statistical-oriented user. For those who might not know what it is an open-source programming language used for computational statistics, for visualization and data. But in our report or in our research, we talked to every vendor that's included, and they all have integrated R into their offering. It's really becoming very, very important, and to allow the sort of the import of different R-based models. There's millions of users of R, and they're all pretty dedicated to it. It is, as I said, open source. So there was a lot of discussion about, both from end users who talk about the use of R and from the vendors who provide sort of components and capabilities that are R related. It definitely R appeals to the data scientists and the statisticians. And I know that Steve might want to add something, but Predixion, as he mentioned, does have the capability to give both the statistical users access to R, but I think also for the business users can have access to R's capabilities, because there is a wizard interface, so that you don't need to be an R programmer, but you can also have access. And I know that's also an important trend, and that's really making R much more available for the capabilities of it.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Marcia, just to reinforce what you've been saying in your research, from a vendor perspective, we've recognized the importance of R for some time now and incorporated it into our platform, early last year. And it's interesting what's going on with R. We'll see groups, just from a vendor perspective, even if there's a small group of 2 or 3 people who are what I call data scientist enthusiasts, right? They're not necessarily PhDs in data scientists, but they've picked up R as a programming language to help them get started. And we also work with companies who have analytics groups that that number in the hundreds that use it as well. So the diversity and the type of people using R and the types of problems that they're trying to solve is very varied, and that was a trend that we noticed early on and provided some of these features to very simply incorporate it without having to learn all of the ins and outs of the programming language from a platform level in our product. But we do see a number and varying users of the technology. It's very important to the community. It's very ubiquitous. Part of that is just because of the open source nature. In terms of raw numbers, I don't really have those, but from a vendor perspective, we saw that trend early on, which is why we've incorporated the level of functionality that we do today.
Okay, great. Let's see, looking through the list here. That kind of ties into another question that came in. How would you compare Predixion with other open source technologies? Not with other, well, the question is other open source technologies like Spark, mlib, and HTO.
So would you like us to take that, or Steve?
So I think it would be great, Marcia, if you could talk about that from more of an industry perspective.
Perspective, and then you can fill in.
Sure.
Yeah. So first of all, Predixion is not open source.
Correct.
But it's to compare, and we've talked a lot about R, which is open source. So the one thing to remember is that while there's a lot of use, I mean, we certainly heard from lots of end users who are doing a lot of creation of analytic works on their own, using open source tools. But there really is, I think, a growing trend for companies who they want speed, they want repeatability, they want ease of use, and so it makes sense to work with a vendor that has some of the tools that we've been talking about all along, that kind of make the analytics available not only to the data scientist but to the business user. You need those an easy to get started approach. You need a vendor that's there to really support you if there's questions, if there's difficulties with the model development, difficulties with accessing your data sources and how you pull it all together. And you're with a vendor, not, Predixion is one of them, you're going to get a lot of that support.
So, and to follow on to that, one of the bigger differences between Predixion and, say, something like Spark and mlib is that we do provide that full end-to-end platform. It's pretty interesting to see these technologies, and it's not actually all that dissimilar from the conversation about R we were just having. There's always going to be that class of user who is a bit of a do-it-yourselfer, and it takes a pretty advanced user of something like Spark and mlib to produce an application, but you can produce a very tailored, very powerful application based on that kind of technology. From an overall offering perspective, what we have focused on is building out the Prediction Insight platform to help you do other things around than just the modeling library. So there are abilities to work with multiple data sources. There are features to shape the data. There's a lot of visualization that's built on top of our technology. And we also have the ability to ingest some of these libraries from multiple locations, not specifically Spark and mlib, but as we talked about, we can ingest R or something, some of the models and algorithms from Microsoft SQL Server Analysis Services or those that are exported into PMML. And one of the features within our solution is to look at a component called an accuracy chart within our workbench. And you can actually compare the results of multiple algorithms against your data sets to help you pick the one that's best for you. And then we make those predictive models actionable either through APIs or through a solution accelerator visualization to really get to that last mile of analytics. So The difference comes into we have an end-to-end platform and turnkey solutions that can ingest some of those solutions as part of the end-to-end offer that we provide, but we do provide a bit more from a platform and an enablement perspective.
Great. And Kurt, if you could comment in the question pane, I think that answered your question, which was, is there a Predixion API exposed to wrap this product into an existing product? And I think that answered Kurt's question as well. And looking through the pane, I believe, okay, yes, that did answer Kurt's question. And looking through that, I think we have now answered all of the questions that have come in. And we're coming up with just 3 minutes left until the top of the hour. I think we can just about call this a wrap without any additional questions. To those of you still on the line, if you need additional information, I would encourage you to visit the Predixion website. And again, we'll be sending out a link with the replay information and information on how to download the presentation that you received today. So again, thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll be back for another live event with us very soon. Thank you for your time today. I hope you found this helpful. Marcia, Dan, Steve, thank you again for your time. Great presentation.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.